Okay, I'd now like to introduce David Masters, who'll be talking about a small company you may have heard of. Has anyone heard of Microsoft? Anyway, an accessibility update from Microsoft.
Thanks for that. Look, I spoke here 12 months ago talking about our journey on accessibility, and I thought it'd be good to come back in 12 months' time and give you a bit of an update of where we're at. So for those who don't know me, I'm David Masters. I'm the Corporate Affairs Director at Microsoft. My day job is public policy work, so I do our government relations public policy work, but I increasingly have a passion for accessibility, and I do some accessibility policy work. I worked fairly closely with Standards Australia on the adoption of EN 301549 as an Australian standard, which adds the letters AS to the front of it, so it becomes even more of a mouthful. But the next plan is to try and get that more utilised by governments. We've seen that adopted in some New South Wales government procurements, but keen to see the federal government adopt it as well. So, this is really a story about people. And really to give you an update, sort of accessibility at Microsoft is really to tell the story of the impact of people, both inside the company, so the efforts we've made to hire more people with disabilities, to bring that diversity of perspective inside the company, but also the people outside of the company that inspire us. So in this picture, there are 6 boxes, so going clockwise from the top left. The woman at the top left is Emma Lawton. She is a graphic designer from the UK. Has anyone seen the series, the BBC series, which has been on SBS called My Big Life Fix? Anyone seen that? Anyway, Emma was on that series with one of our researchers out of the UK, who's actually an Aussie. So Hyan Zhang, who actually is from Melbourne, but she works in our Cambridge labs in the UK. Emma suffers from Parkinson's, and as a consequence can't draw because of the tremors. And so Hyan worked with Emma to come up with basically it's a wristband, so a little watch that vibrates at a certain frequency, which actually allows her to control her tremors. In the middle there, so moving to the right, we have one of our avatars on Xbox. So we've tried to create more inclusive avatars so that if you're if you're playing games, you can have an avatar that more accurately represents yourself. And so the avatar you can see there is a blonde girl who has a prosthetic, I'm just trying to do the math, a left arm. Further to the right, you have 2 children who look like they're playing with a toy. That's actually a thing called Project Torino. Project Torino is a project, again, out of our labs in the UK, which is looking at how do you teach blind students and blind children how to code. So the blocks that you can see in front of them are basically circuit switches, which basically is a way of trying to encourage them to think about coding. And so they can build basically little sort of applications using those blocks and the circuitry. In coming around at the bottom there, you can see a family with a man in a wheelchair, a woman holding a child. That's Steve Gleeson, his wife Michelle, and their daughter Rivers. Steve has what we call motor neuron disease in Australia, what they call ALS in the US. And we've worked quite closely with Steve on a technology called iGaze. And that started as a hack project in 2014. I'll talk a little bit about how that's come into the latest version of Windows. In the middle, you can see a picture of the Xbox logo on a wall, and then to the far left of that, there is the Xbox logo, which actually is a circle with the little X in it, which actually forms the wheel of a wheelchair. And you're starting to see these little sort of glyphs pop up all around Microsoft, just to remind people of our purpose. And so that's, again, a reminder to anyone working in the Xbox team to think about inclusivity as they're designing games and they're designing their system. And one thing I'll call out, has anyone heard of Copilot on Xbox? Okay, Copilot is where you can basically use 2 Xbox controllers as one. So if you have someone who has dexterity challenges or mobility challenges who can only use one or can only use certain controls, you can have a friend play the other controls for you. The other cool thing about this, and we'll talk about sort of examples of the sort of inclusive mindset driving other sort of outcomes, It's really, really good for teaching children how to game and for parents playing with their children, because you can actually play the same character in games using basically 2 controllers as one. The final person on the bottom left of the screen is, hang on, yeah, it is your left. I'm having trouble with that. Is Amos Miller. Amos is one of our staff who started in our services team. He's moved into our research team. Amos is blind. He is the inspiration behind our soundscape technology, which we're working on at the moment, which is part of the Cities Unlocked project with the Guide Dogs in the UK, which is about providing an audio soundscape, a 3D soundscape of the world around you. And so as you move through a location, it will provide you audio cues of what's around you from the direction of which that information resides. So, for example, if you walk past a cafe, the cafe is on your left, you'll hear cafe 50 metres in your left ear. Before I get into PowerPoint design, I'm just going to do something really messy here. So I'm just going to switch to, hang on, to YouTube, which I'll drag across onto the screen, because it would be very remiss of me not to show you this, given it's a, hang on, bear with me. There we go, it's on the screen now. So the video I'm about to show you is from across the road. And so I won't talk any more about it, but I'll show you.
This is the greatest time in human history to be blind. The capacity to access technology opens up incredible doors.
Microsoft plus accessibility.
I'm one of triplets, and we're all born 3 months early, and the oxygen that was used to keep us alive caused our blindness. It's never been a barrier for me achieving what I want to achieve in life. I work as a law lecturer, and I'm currently undertaking my PhD, and I'm also a director with Vision Australia.
Remedies of law.
When I'm at work, I spend my life in Office 365, and I love its accessibility features. In Word, I'm constantly editing documents. I'm able to use comments to provide feedback on student assignments.
He holds a smartphone.
In Outlook, I'm always in the calendar. The calendar controls my life. The nature of my job means I'm often either at conferences or doing work on the go.
He works on a Surface.
Surface gives me the flexibility to do all of those things, as does Office 365, because all my files are stored in the cloud and I can access them from anywhere.
He smiles.
I absolutely love seeing AI. To me, it's an example of Microsoft taking a leap forward using some of our research and our ability to innovate.
Sanitarium peanut butter.
If my children hand me a note from school, I can use Seeing AI to give me a very brief, instant overview of what's on the document.
Science credit. Jasper rolls.
The value for me with accessible technology is that it actually allows me to reach my full potential rather than worrying about whether something's accessible or not.
Microsoft. Microsoft.com/accessibility.
So as the video said, Cameron is a law lecturer across the road at ANU, and that video actually, or hang on, it's going to continue playing, isn't it? Just bear with me 2 seconds. Has it stopped? Hang on, just make sure that video is not, the next video is not playing. I think it's all right. So that video is about Cameron Rolls, who's a law lecturer at the ANU. Cameron actually reached out to our Chief Accessibility Officer, Jenny Leigh Fleury, after a conference in Reno, just to basically send her a note to say thank you to Microsoft employees for some of the work that we've been doing. I think there's been some noticeable recognition that we have improved significantly in this space. The nice thing about that was we reached back out to Cameron and said, well, would you be comfortable telling your story to the world? And Cameron was very comfortable. And now that's part of a series of videos called Inclusion in Action, where we're actually showing how people are using our technology in their work and in their lives. You also will have seen, demonstrated in that video was Seeing AI, which we launched in Australia last week. So I'd encourage you, anyone who has an iPhone, download it, play with it, and tell us what you think. We're looking for feedback on that. But it basically allows you to do a whole range of things. It has channels, so it scans barcodes, will give you information about the product. It has a short text reader, so it will read short snippets of text. It has a document reader as well attached into it using optical character recognition. And that's a really good demonstration of the power of artificial intelligence and how we're starting to embed that into products that we bring to market, but also, more importantly, into some of our core products, particularly Windows and Office. And to that point, what you can see on what is shown on screen is PowerPoint Designer. And PowerPoint Designer is a feature in PowerPoint in Office 365 where if you take any image and any text, dump it onto a PowerPoint, click on the Design button, and it will bring you up options. So for anyone who has mobility needs or even for someone with low or no vision, it just cuts down the steps in terms of creating a much more user-friendly PowerPoint.
Can I try to take advantage of both of these?
There we go. There it is. Hang on, I'm just going to get rid of that. Oh, I shouldn't have broken it. Hang on. Bear with me. Just. Why is it not working? All right. It's all right. Hopefully it won't play. The next one that I'm going to show you, so I've shown you PowerPoint Designer. Next one I'm going to show you is the automatic alt text in PowerPoint. And again, this uses our artificial intelligence to generate a description of the image. The good thing about this, what it does is it makes alt text very prominent to people that aren't familiar with it. So the description may not be all that accurate, but what it does is it prompts people to think about adding alt text to that image. And so we've also made it easier to add alt text by enabling you to basically click right in the image, and there'll be a drop-down menu that will appear when you click right, and you just click down Edit Alt Text, and it takes you straight to the dialogue to add and change that alt text. But because of the descriptions there, it's a good way of prompting people to do that. Presentation Translator. I did a demonstration of this at Alibytes, and it blew up on me horrendously. The thing I will encourage, if you're using this, it's pretty good with a microphone. It's not so great without a microphone. So what it does is it drops a slide into your presentation up the front with a QR code, also instructions on how to download the Microsoft Translator app. Once you download that app, you can get the live transcript of the person that's talking at that time. And you can also then have that translated into one of 60 languages. So again, it's an incredible demonstration of when you start to bring inclusion to your products, what other opportunities are opened up because of that. So not only is it a caption, but it's also a caption that can be translated to audiences in different languages. In Windows, I want to call out a couple of things that have just come out in the Fall Creators Update, so the one that's just been released a couple of months ago. Colour and high contrast. So we now have a little really easy way of changing the colour settings so that someone who is colourblind can have a much more usable experience. So that one, and there's a colour palette as well, so people can adjust that more easily. And the final one is eye control, and we talked a little bit about that, about the hack at the beginning, but now we've embedded that. So if you buy, there's a device from Tobii, which was originally designed for gaming, and it's a $150 device. Plug that into your machine, and you can start using eye control on Windows 10. So I'll give you there's a little video about how that came from a hack to reality.
Odd one, yes.
What are you looking for? Like, what are the key things you look for
I think that's
in
my-
the companies you're going to invest in?
Hang on.
We look for.
I'm going to stop there. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to. How do I close it? I'll just. Why is it not coming up? I'll just bring it up. It's not. Sorry. Got to ruin things again. I want to close the tabs. Okay. That's going to stop. Let's try again.
What power do you have to change lives? To confront a problem and say, I can make a difference.
ALS is a terminal disease that causes muscles to atrophy and die.
ALS is an awful disease. It digresses over 2 to 5 years from onset to potential death. That means we're fighting against the clock. With ALS, you become locked in. But with technology, we can find ways to unlock what has been taken away.
The work that started 3 years ago as a hackathon project continues today by a Microsoft team using technology to empower those with ALS.
We sat down with some folks locally and we asked them the impact of ALS.
As they discovered, sometimes a powerful solution comes in the blink of an eye.
The goal of iControl is to allow people to use as much of the functionality of Windows as possible using just their eyes. You could type by just glancing at the characters instead of dwelling on each one. You could compose a word instead of doing character by character.
But turning that idea into life-changing technology was a constant battle against time.
So as your function decreases, your world retracts. This is the only link, really, to the outside world.
It's not like somebody's going to die if you don't do your work today. But in our case, it's literally like that. So you're always racing against somebody else's progression of disease.
Today, 3 years later, the next stage of eye tracking technology is ready to reach Windows customers worldwide.
The iControl project has helped me see how I can have an impact on people's lives.
To have these people coming into our lives with the sole purpose of making the world better for us, I mean, is a gift beyond price.
Microsoft eye tracking technology can make a meaningful difference in people's lives across the globe. And we're just getting started.
So as that video said, it started life as a hack. So every year in Microsoft for the last 4 years, we've had a hack called 1 Week. And so anyone in the company can put forward an idea, can build a team, and come together to hack around a product or an idea. In the first year, we basically allowed people to also designate that their hacks would be ability hacks. So if it had a disability outcome or an accessibility outcome, people could say, well, ours is going to be an ability hack. The Steve Gleason project was one of about 10 in the first year, so 2014. The second year we had 40 projects, teams of about 5 to 6. The next year we had 100. This year we had 150. We had about 850 people doing ability hacks across the company. Not all of them have gone on to be ideas that have been taken forward, but the good thing is you've got 850 people inside the company now who are interested in developing for accessibility. You've got 850 people who've become sort of evangelists inside the company for disability. So regardless of whether there's a successful hack that's come out at the back end of it, you're engendering a culture that drives a change in behaviour. The other one I want to call out, there is a video, I might skip past that video because we're running a little bit out of time, is the learning tools. Is anyone familiar with learning tools? I may have spoken about it last year a little bit. But originally that was built into OneNote, and now we're bringing that functionality also to Edge and to Word. And what that allows you to do is to take text, and that can be text that's already in a digital format, or it could be text that you capture through Microsoft Office Lens. So it's an app on your phone, you take a photo of that, uses optical character recognition to extract the text out of that. Then you can start to manipulate that text. So you can have it read to you in different speeds, you can highlight the nouns, verbs, adjectives within the sentence structure, you can remove visual crowding. So for children that have learning difficulties like dyslexia, that can have a huge impact on their ability to read. You can highlight the syllables within a word and within that sentence. So what it allows teachers to do is to use techniques that they've been using with children with learning difficulties for a long time, but do that in a way that is more self-engaged. So the children themselves can start to manipulate the text and start to unpack it themselves. And we've seen huge impacts on the ability of children to learn to read using these technologies. So what is on screen at the moment is, again, a little GIF of showing how how those reading tools operate. So it's showing the text size being increased, it's showing the visual crowding being removed, it is showing you can change the contrast settings, change the colour, make it more easy to read, and then have it read to you, show the syllables, show the nouns, show the verbs within the sentence structure. So again, it's a way of unpacking language. As I said, there is a video. I'll skip past that video and talk about some resources. So one of the good things about talking about this inside of Microsoft, so anyone who attended my workshop on inclusive design on Monday, we're sharing a lot of this. So what you can see on the screen is a link to our disability inclusion resources. So they're things that we've learnt as we've hired more people with disabilities. We want to share those learnings with the world. So there are resources there just in terms of things like etiquette and really simple stuff, but also just some learnings as well about some of the hiring processes that we've put in place, particularly, say, for example, our autism hiring program, some of the things that we've learnt around that. The Microsoft Accessibility website, and I'll read it out. It's ak.ms/Microsoft Accessibility, or if you just type microsoft.com/accessibility, it will take you to the same site. And that's all of our resources that you can click to. So anything you're looking for, even the previous inclusion resources, you can find through this site as well. It has links to all of our conformance statements, so WCAG, EN 301549, Section 508 VPATs, if anyone needs those. And there are separate links for Windows and for Office that are being updated pretty regularly. So every couple of months we'll update that with the new features that have been added to Office and the new features that have been added to Windows. It also links to some of our support channels, and we'll talk a little bit about those in a second. We also have an employee reference group internally, so there's some information about how that operates inside of Microsoft. So it's one of 7 employee resource groups. Those employee resource groups cover gender, race, sexuality, but the disability one also has subgroups that focus on particular disabilities. And so since probably for about 20 odd years, we've had groups. We've had Vision, so it's called VIP, Visually Impaired People. And so that's been operating pretty effectively. It's an amazing sounding board internally for our products and for beta releases, for example. So we get very strong feedback from those employee groups. The deaf community is called Huddle. And does anyone know the background on American football, the American Football Huddle, and how that came to be? It was a deaf school that actually had to create the huddle to ensure that their signs weren't being seen by the opposing side. And so, funny enough, sighted football players, that's a really good idea as well because it allows us to communicate really effectively. And so the huddle is now common within American football, and that's the name of our deaf community inside of Microsoft. And there are others, including autism. There are ones that also include parents with children with disabilities as well, just to create that community. There's about 15 different groups inside of Microsoft, and it's an incredibly active and vibrant community, and that's a pretty important part of the cultural journey. Interestingly enough, Satya Nadella, who some may have heard about his own personal story of being a parent with a child with disabilities, was the executive sponsor of the Disability Employee Reference Group inside of Microsoft before he became the CEO. Finally, the Disability Answer Desk, which is a really important resource for people with disabilities. So the number in Australia is 1800 280 300. There is also online chat as well. I'm being encouraged to talk about this pretty regularly because the calls from Australia are pretty low. We get about 250,000 calls a year to the Disability Answer Desk. We get very few from Australia. So I'd encourage you, if you run into any issues with our products, the accessibility of our products, please use that channel. You will get dedicated resources that are focused on disability, that understand accessibility, that know that if you say Jaws and Dragon, you're not talking about movies. And don't joke, we have actually had that come up in conversation from some of our support staff. So that's, again, the Disability Answer Desk. You'll be also be able to find that, type Disability Answer Desk Microsoft into any search engine, and that will bring you to that site. There is a video about the Disability Answer Desk, but we're running pretty close to time, so I'll skip past that. We also have an enterprise version of this. So I know a lot of you will work with organisations that are looking to improve the accessibility of their deployments of our products and services. And so if they are running into issues as part of that deployment, if they have user issues, then again, EDAD is the place to go. We like to joke we have dads but no mums inside of Microsoft. EDAD is also a direct email, so edad@microsoft.com, and that will take you straight to that group of individuals who can help out with any issues that you come across. With that, I'll open it up to some questions. I have about 4 minutes, I think. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that interesting talk. No worries. My question goes all the way back to the start of your presentation when you were talking about alt text for images. And I just wanted to confirm that, or the way I understood it is that the alt text field is pre-populated with something that reflects the image. I just wanted to confirm that.
That's right.
That sounds great.
That's exactly right. So if you take any image, be it one that you pull from the web or your own images, so you go to the normal functions in PowerPoint or Word now, and you drop in an image. Our Vision APIs will generate text around what's in that image. So they won't always be great. The nice thing about artificial intelligence is that the more it's used, the better it gets. So we encourage people to use that, because the more accurate the descriptions that people give us, the more we learn from that. But the great thing about it is it pops up at the bottom of the image. So someone who is not even aware of alt text suddenly has this thing that says alt text, two men working over a computer. They go, well, hang on, what's all that about? And so it's also about that learning experience. So it's encouraging people to learn more. So Andrew had a question.
Just a bit more on that. For those who were in my workshop yesterday where I put that photo up of me using the drop saw, the Microsoft alt text just says man in blue shirt, which at least is a start.
It's something.
And a fringe benefit of that, quite a few of us blind people either take photos or have photos taken, and then you think, I wonder what that one's of. So it is quite a useful resource for saying, oh, that's the photo of when I was doing whatever. So it is quite a good way of a blind person being able to sort out what the photos are and then perhaps give them an appropriate name so that you can refer to them in future. Thanks.
Yeah, and to pick up on that, if Seeing AI also has a beta setting at the moment, which is a scene setting. So if you take a photo of a scene, it will give you a description using the same Vision APIs as well.
Hi, I'm just wondering if there are plans to implement the Soundscape project in a larger scale?
Yeah, look, there is. I can't talk too much more about that. One of the challenges we find with some of these technologies is that you start to run into the blurry line between what is a useful useful piece of assistive technology and what is a medical device. So we're coming up against that blurry line on a couple of fronts, and that's one of those technologies. Seeing AI is another one where it kind of is a blurry line. The thing I will say about Soundscape is watch this space. We have to be very focused on where we can put our resources and where we can do the best job, because we want to make sure it's a good experience if people are going to rely on that technology to navigate a space. We are looking at some projects here in Australia. We're certainly looking at some projects around the world, and hopefully hopefully when I'm back here in 12 months' time, I'll be able to say some more about that. So,
thank you again, David.
Done. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.